The CHIPS and Science Act is not handing out blank checks to companies. I've directed my administration to be laser focused on the guardrails that will protect taxpayers' dollars. We'll make sure that companies partner with unions, community colleges, technical schools to offer training and apprenticeships, and to work with small and minority-owned businesses as well. We're going to make sure that companies that take taxpayers' dollars don't turn around and make investments in China to undermine our supply chain and national security. You know, we have the power. We have the power to take back any federal funding if companies don't meet these requirements. The law also requires companies build these semiconductor facilities by Davis-Bacon prevailing wage, so people can live with a little bit of breathing room. This will ensure tens of thousands of new construction jobs and high-paying jobs, and more often, high-paying union jobs.
Idaho could be preparing to send another round of rebate checks to Idaho taxpayers. The proposal is a tax rebate of 10% of tax amounts paid in 2020 or $300 for individual filers, whatever amount is greater. The idea was announced by the governor, and this week the lawmakers will vote on the package that includes rebate checks, income tax cuts, and investments in public education. Over the past few years, there have been a lot of conversations about stimulus checks and inflation, and it's popular agreement that repeated federal stimulus money has accelerated inflation rates. And there are big announcements this week for all low-income households. There are now over 20 states that are currently sending out brand new stimulus checks. It's all part of a fourth stimulus package. Some of these payments will not be automatically sent out. Now, millions of Americans are still hoping that the federal child tax credit will be extended as part of a plan to tackle inflation and poverty. The good news is that there is still some relief available for families in the U.S. 12 states have either updated or initiated their own child tax credit initiatives. Most state-run child tax credits are earmarked for low-income households. The federal child tax credit became available to qualifying families through the American Rescue Plan Act and provided up to $3,000 per child per year for families with children under the age of 6, for families with children ages 6 to 16. The Biden administration hoped the U.S. program will last until 2026, but the Senate voted against extending the expanded child tax credit. The main option now is to apply for state child tax credit programs. Here's a full list of the states that currently offer their own child tax credit programs: California, Colorado, Connecticut, Maine, New York, Oklahoma, Rhode Island, and Vermont. Eligibility requirements vary state by state and are based mainly on factors like the age of the child and family income. Now, for example, in California, the Young Child Tax Credit is available to children under age 6 who qualify for the Earned Income Tax Credit. In Maryland, the State Child Tax Credit is available to people under the age of 17 with disability, with a further requirement that household adjusted gross income be $6,000 a year or less. Connecticut has one of the higher income limits. The governor reported that roughly 70% to 80% of eligible households claimed the state's $250 per child tax rebate before the application period closed. That means $92.5 million of the $125 million that legislators appropriated for the program will be distributed.
Thank you. Senator Wicker.
Thank you very much. Well, I really appreciated the testimony today. I appreciate Mr. Capozzi talking about the need for improving access to people with disabilities. Reverend Latham, you're absolutely right. I'm very, very interested in better recruiting and more successful recruiting from the HBCU. So thank you very much. It should surprise no one that I really want to talk about Gulf Coast Rail. And Mr. Primus and Mr. Fuchs in the audience, thank you for allowing me to testify before the STB. There have been hearings, 11-day evidentiary hearing. And then in May, STB members expressed disappointment with the level of detail and analysis offered and gave the parties additional discovery time. Do you have better information and better detail now? Do you have what you need, Mr. Primus?
The simple answer in my mind is I hope so. I mean, we are still evaluating the information that was just presented to us very recently. In my mind, honestly, I understand the frustration in the delay of even our decision, and we are working expeditiously to try and get to that conclusion. I think in terms of asking for this additional information, we needed to be sure what was being presented on both sides really, rose above rose to the level that was acceptable and meritorious that we could review. I mean, and that's why we're at the point now.
Okay, I may intrude on my time, but I usually don't do that, Madam Chair. There's been an STB ordered mediation. I understand that's going to be extended. Is that correct?
All the parties asked for the mediation. So before there was objection, but all parties asked for mediation, and so.
And I wonder how long that period will be extended.
Senator Van Hollen of Maryland's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to both of our witnesses here today. And Commissioner Bahrain, it's great to have a fellow Marylander here. Thank you for your work protecting the interest of Marylanders and your work at NAIC. And I also want to thank you and NAIC for helping me and some of my colleagues prepare legislation to protect seniors from financial fraud. The legislation is titled Empowering States to Protect Seniors from Bad Actors Act, and it would provide an authorization grant program to the SEC to provide both state securities and insurance regulators with additional resources to crack down on fraud, which we know is a huge problem, $3 billion a year, at least in financial scams. Can you just speak briefly to the importance of passing this legislation to protect seniors from financial fraud?
Absolutely, Senator. We've been very happy to work with you on that initiative. I mean, there's probably consumer protection is what insurance regulation is all about. And there's probably no more important area of consumer protection than assuring that our seniors are not subject to aggressive marketing tactics and to, other fraudulent practices. So it's really critically important that we have all the resources available to assure that we are on the ground working with seniors directly to be able to prevent them from being caught up in fraud.
Thank you, and I'm going to take this chance to ask the chairman and the ranking member to join us in getting that bipartisan bill out of the
Senator Van Hollen, we were just speaking about it quietly while you were asking.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Let me ask you a couple of questions regarding capital standards in the context of climate risk. As you well know, an important role of the state insurance regulator is to monitor the capital adequacy of insurers to ensure their ability to pay their claims following catastrophic events. One of the concerns is that with increasing severity and frequency of extreme weather events, that the risk-based capital models may overemphasize the trends of older historical data and not adequately assess newer risks. So, two-part question, Commissioner Bahrain. What is the NAIC doing to ensure that its models incorporate the most recent and relevant climate